with the Cavs at season's end and leave for his hometown and play for the Los Angeles Lakers. It would make sense for Love to opt out of the deal because he could sign a new deal worth max money. So what are the chances that he, Love, opts out of his contract and leaves Cleveland? Stephen A., your take.
Well, you'd like to believe that there's always a possibility that somebody would be willing to go to Los Angeles and play in purple and gold. There's no question about it. But it appears to be a long shot at this moment in time. We've been hearing this stuff for quite a long time. We heard it when Kevin Love was in Minnesota, even when he made it very, very clear to the Timberwolves that he wanted to leave and had the Chicago Bulls and the Golden State Warriors on his wish list. You were still hearing about the Lakers back then. Now he comes to Cleveland, and here you hear this stuff again. We don't know what to believe. The chances are that he'll stay in Cleveland because Cleveland is in a position to offer him a 5-year max deal, whereas the Lakers, finding themselves in a similar situation to when they recruited Carmelo Anthony, can only offer 4 years. But in the end, you know, considering the fact that next year will be Kobe Bryant's last and that the Lakers are clearly desperate and looking to get somebody to attract to the City of Angels, anything's possible, so we can't rule it out. But I think at the same time, you have to look at it and say Cleveland playing alongside LeBron James and Kyrie Irving clearly is the kind of priority that Kevin Love is holding on to right now, because chances are he did not elect to come to Cleveland if there wasn't some kind of private, quiet, tacit agreement that he would stay on.
So you believe there is that?
I believe there is that, yes.
Well,
but that doesn't mean it could be violated. I've known situations where that's been violated in the past.
Yep, I got you. So we're talking about just a handshake sort of agreement, and we know how those last or don't last. So at Kevin Love's Welcome to Cleveland media session, he said, and I quote, "I'm committed to this team and committed long-term to the end goal of winning a championship." Well, how do you define long-term? What if they won the championship this year? Would that free him up to go to La La Land? I don't know. A lot is to be determined because, to me, Stephen A., the bigger question here is, how much is Kevin Love starting to like or not like his role with these Cavaliers offensively? Because I'm going to point out, and I know it's very early, and they're all trying to find their place in this new offense, but so far, Kevin Love leads the Cavaliers with 39 three-pointers because he's turned into pretty much a spot-up three-point shooter in that offense. He has only 45 two-point shots, which is only fourth on the team behind, obviously, LeBron, Kyrie, and even Tristan Thompson has more two-point makes than Kevin Love does. Do you think Kevin Love loves that? I don't. Because I look back at Minnesota, and again, they never even made the playoffs, but you don't think he got spoiled by the fact that last year in Minnesota, he had 916 two-point makes, and Kevin Martin was next on the team with only 726. Last year in Minnesota, he led the team in three-point makes at 505. Kevin Martin was next, way down at 297. So you can see that the ball last year was always, all the years that Kevin Love was in Minnesota, always in his hands. He's touching the ball. He's distributing the ball. Like this year, his assists are 1.8 a game. Last year in Minneapolis, he was 4.4 a game. So do you think he's going to be happy with the incredibly reduced offensive role where he's basically become the spot-up, weak-side? What? It's almost like he's Steve Kerr now, you know, in the old Bulls offense. Will he love that? You give me a thought on it.
Well, first of all, I think that if Kevin Love finds himself in a situation where he's getting his X number of shots, it doesn't matter whether it's from outside or inside, as long as he's getting to touch the ball and he's getting his shots. That's number one, especially since he can make the three-point shot. Remember, he was shooting better from three-point range, or is shooting better from three-point range now than he is from regular field goal range. So we have to take that into consideration. Yep. We also, Skip, have to pay attention to this key nugget, and I threw this out at you the other day, and I'll reiterate it again. You know, in NBA circles, what you're hearing about Kevin Love, and again, I don't know if it's true or not, but what you're hearing about him is that his knees aren't the greatest. Yep. He ain't aching like Dwayne Wade or anything like that, but he's not 100%. Well, if you're Kevin Love, you can look at that two ways. You can look at it as, okay, you like the three-point shot, but you also like the fact that you don't necessarily have to score in the post, bang bodies like that offensively, not to mention the fact that you don't have to work as hard offensively because you got a Kyrie Irving and a LeBron James alongside you. And if indeed there's any relief that he's able to accrue from that kind of situation, then you look at Los Angeles, and that makes Los Angeles eminently more unpopular to even consider as an option, because chances are if you go to Los Angeles, it's going to be thrusted on your shoulders in the strong Western Conference, and you'll find yourself back in the situation you were in Minnesota just last season over the previous 6 years. And so because of it, Cleveland, not just playing with LeBron and with Kyrie, but also being in the Eastern Conference, is a considerably easier load for you. And when you combine that with the fact that you can still get more money because Cleveland has the right to give you the max deal of 5 years as opposed to another team giving you 4, it seems highly unlikely that he would look to make a move to the Lakers by departing from Cleveland. But again, we don't know. Anything's possible. Yep. But if I had to bet my money on it, I would not.
Okay. So now we're back to Bosh syndrome, as in Chris Bosh, as in the former third wheel of the LeBron D-Wade trilogy in Miami. Now, Chris Bosh was able to win 2 rings, being the third wheel. So far in Miami this year, he's an early, I'd have to go this far, he's an early MVP candidate, is Chris Bosh. All of a sudden, the shackles are off. He gets to touch the ball often. He can score it in the post, in the paint. He can shoot threes occasionally. He's become the first wheel this year in Miami. So my point is, he did get his 2 rings already, but does Kevin Love want to go back to being the first wheel somewhere at some point? Or does he just want to stay to get 1 ring or 2, or could they build a dynasty here? They could.
Well, Skip, you have to put things into consideration. Chris Bosh was the #1 option in Toronto, and although they were not championship contenders, they didn't stink up the joint. You know, they were relatively respectable, and it was in a relatively weak Eastern Conference compared to the teams out west. You're Kevin Love. You spent 6 years in Minnesota. You were never in the playoffs. So not only do you come to the East, yeah, you may not be a #1 option, but you go from being a doormat to being an instant title contender while at the same time getting your money. So the fact that you're getting your money and you're winning, I would like to believe for any kind of competitor, is more important than just being the #1 offensive option.
Yep, that's a very good point, and I agree with you. And from what we just saw last night of Kevin Love leaping onto the back of LeBron as he was being interviewed after the game, loving the moment of winning a fairly big game at home, albeit against the Pelicans. So they're pretty good this year with Anthony Davis. But my point is, Kevin Love seemed to love that moment, and he will experience more of them. So I'm with you. I would bet my long-term money that he would be long-term in Cleveland.
Leave it there then, gentlemen. Coming up next, let's talk about the Clippers. The Clippers have a win.